How good is that song? Classic! Fellas, it's opening day. This is exciting. Spring is in the air. This magic moment. Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith. I'm Molly Karen Rowe.
I'm just saying, that's a classic.
What's
Molly
wrong?
and the classic. I wasn't aware that Molly got down with the classics like that. I wasn't aware of that.
For
I wasn't
sure.
aware of that.
Yes,
Okay.
bringing me back. Yes,
Like the look, by the way.
yes.
Like the look. The black is slamming.
Thank
It looks
you.
very, very nice. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Guys, let's get it. We'll get to baseball. Obviously, opening day. That's exciting. Jessica Mendoza will be with us later to help us preview it. But we're going to start with some hoops out there in the wild, wild west. And it just keeps getting wilder, fellas. So now that the NBA trade deadline is come and gone, let's take a look at the standings. The Jazz, who dealt with a major scare on Tuesday. Did you see this? An emergency landing. Thank God everyone is safe. But the players were certainly shook up, followed by the Suns. The Clippers, who recently acquired playoff Rondo. The Lakers, who scooped up Andre Drummond, who dealt with a toe issue last night. Toenail, that is. And lastly, the Denver Nuggets. And oh, by the way, Luka, he went off on Boston, putting up 36, 8, and 5, doing all sorts of Luka Doncic things. Stephen A., who's the biggest threat to the Lakers at this point?
I'm incredibly impressed with a lot of things going on in the Western Conference, especially with the Phoenix Suns, and obviously the Los Angeles Clippers have come on strong. But my answer to this question is going to be the Utah Jazz, Max Kellerman. They're a top 5 defensive team in the National Basketball Association. They are top 3 offensively. They are top 2 shooting the ball from 3 and number 1 in attempts. And then when you take into account the fact that Rudy Gobert always in line for Defensive Player of the Year because it's his prowess on the defensive end of the floor, you combine that with Royce O'Neal defending you on the perimeter. You've got interior defense. You've got defense on the perimeter. And then on top of it all, you've got 6 different dudes all averaging in double figures. You look at the Utah Jazz, they are incredibly formidable. Make no mistake about it. Obviously, when you think about the Lakers, they're the Goliath, especially with Andre Drummond there. If Anthony Davis and LeBron James comes back, who's going to be able to deal with that front line? The answer would be no one in my estimation. But if there's somebody that has a shot, it's somebody that can play elite defense combined with being able to launch from long range. And the Utah Jazz have shown that they're getting that in droves. And oh, by the way, as far as I'm concerned, they have a leading contender for 6th man of the year in Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah.
Their coaching staff is doing an outstanding job led by Quinn Snyder. I'm looking at the Utah Jazz right now as the number 1 threat to the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference.
This is a debate show, so everybody knows. I'm about to tell you you're wrong. But before I do, let me say that what they just went through last night.
Yeah, that's some scary stuff. I know I'd be scared as hell.
They thought that was it.
Wow.
You listen to the players, they're talking about, they were talking to each other like, yo, this might be it. This might be the end. They thought they were going to die on that plane. Land the plane. Spider Mitchell doesn't get back onto another plane and go to the game. I think I'm with him, actually.
Yes, right.
But these dudes...
He did not.
Did not. These dudes go and play and win.
Yeah.
After something like that, that tells me a lot about their character, actually. The fact that they're able to do it, especially when John Morant's going off the way it was a good game. They're not the biggest threat to the Lakers. They are a threat. They're not the biggest threat, and I'll tell you why. They didn't do anything at the deadline to really make themselves better. You know who did? The Clippers and the Nuggets. And let me tell you something about the Clippers and the Nuggets. I'll start with Denver, and I'm going to go to the Clippers next. Denver and Utah had one of the best opening round series you will ever see in any sport. And when we think about Denver right now, we don't really think about Jamal Murray with Donovan Mitchell and, let's say, Devin Booker, right? He's not quite as good as those guys until it matters most. Then he's every bit as good as those guys. Then he's an all-time great, at least he was last year. They have an MVP caliber player when it comes postseason time in Jamal Murray. We already know Jokic is. We see what Porter Jr. is doing. My God, the way he's shooting the ball, the way he's been scoring. And now you add Aaron Gordon to the mix. See, they didn't just add a little player that doesn't mean anything. They added a big, athletic, forward, in his prime, who now has to worry about being the 3rd or 4th best player on the team.
So your answer is the Denver Nuggets?
I'm saying that's 1. I think Denver has actually come playoff time.
Who is the threat, Max Kellerman? What the hell you giving me? I didn't ask you for a list.
The
I need
Los
one
Angeles Clippers.
Okay.
The Los Angeles Clippers are the biggest threat to the Lakers.
Because?
You made the argument the other day, Rondo. I said it would be a marginal improvement, but that marginal improvement can be profound in the playoffs. They went to a Game 7 that they were up 3-1 against the Denver team I just told you about. And it took an historically bad game by Paul George and Kawhi Leonard in order for Denver to squeak by. Now they have the floor general on this team. When you look at how deep the Clippers go, they got 11 dudes, 11, who can really play. They have guys not just like, Kawhi and Paul George, not just like Rondo, but Batum and Ibaka and Zubac and Reggie Jackson and 3 or 4 guys I'm not even thinking about right now. They are legitimately 11 deep. Your boy Luke Kennard, I know you didn't love that sham for Kennard. Kennard's shooting almost 50% from 3.
I don't care. I don't care. You got to shoot more then. You got to shoot more then. I mean, you can't be taking
got 11 dudes.
I'm just saying, if you taking 8 shots a game, right, but you making 50% of your threes, why the hell ain't you shooting more? You got to get him more opportunities. He has to be a factor. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter that he makes threes. I'm saying it only doesn't matter if you don't take enough of them. And that's what he needs to do, especially since you were willing to part ways with Lou Williams. There's no question that in large part that had something to do with Luke Kennard and how comfortable you're feeling with them. Lou Williams, you talk about a perennial 6th man of the year, and you ship him out. It was never the same since Ty Lue became the coach there. Lou Williams' minutes diminished. He didn't seem as aggressive and as involved and as much of a focus offensively for the Clippers. That's because of Luke Kennard. I got to see Luke Kennard jack up some more shots and take over games offensively the way I've seen Lou Williams do in the past before I'm sold on his arrival in Los Angeles with the Clippers.
I know that the Clippers were that close to getting by Denver and giving you the confrontation you wanted to see with the Lakers in the conference finals.
And I'm still holding it against them.
And one of the reasons I believe the Lakers won the championship the first year they come together, because usually super teams, it takes like at least a season, was Rondo. Playoff Rondo is real. So they had 2 guys in the regular season, and in the postseason, they had 3 All-Stars and another floor general to go with LeBron James. That dude's on the Clippers now.
Well, you know what a lot of people miss about Rondo, to make your point, to accentuate your point, is this. When they talk about playoff Rondo, people keep thinking, the playoffs arrived, so he steps his game up. It's not that simple. What happens is that it's a best 4 of 7. So now you get to focus on one team.
Right.
That brilliant savant of a basketball player, Rajon Rondo, you put him against the same team, best 4 out of 7. He has the ability to figure you out.
It's going to get worse and worse for you.
It's going to get worse and worse.
That's why they say
that's really what it is.
Playoff time is coach's time.
Right.
Plays out of time. Who knows all the plays? Rondo knows. He's a coach on the floor. That is exactly what the Clippers were missing. They got shooting. They have size.
Yeah.
They have every single thing they need. The question is, will Paul George step up? Because Kawhi ain't choking again in the game.
But I can point this to you. You remember what you saw from Donovan Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
And that brother has arrived. And when you take into account the fact that you have surrounded him with depth, defense, and perimeter shooting,
it's a whole lot.
Utah. And by the way, come playoff time, you can expect crowds to be there. Maybe not a full capacity that the MLB is talking about doing opening day with the Rangers, but you can expect the crowd. Utah is not an easy place to play for anybody.
The West is so gangster this year, we didn't even mention Dallas or